Hello, everybody. Uh, we're here in 832 and Module 1. I just wanted to make a few comments about what I'm reading in the discussion forums. One thing I'll point out is you can see there's quite a few of you. There's about 21 students in the class, so that's a little bit bigger than normal. So I'm trying my best to get through. You can see I've done a Control F. So I've read quite a few already. I'm going to try and finish out by the end of the week. Often I don't get through to the end just because it takes a long time to read through and so forth. So I'm going to try leaving a few videos for you just to talk through some of these, and hopefully that's helpful for you. So, for example, let's have a look at the question. So the question is to reflect on your practice. What are some aspects of your curriculum that naturally lead to making connections? So you're doing that. What are some opportunities in your practice that allow for connections to a local, national, or global community? So you're pointing out how your students connect to the curriculum. Oops, I didn't want to do that. Okay. And then how do you help your students see that curriculum and then bring it to life in their local community? And this is where we talk about things like place-based learning, for example, field trips, bringing experts in, and so forth. Another very key point is what kinds of tools are you using to support your students? So instead of tools, maybe think about what kinds of media is one way to look at tools. Another way to look at tools is what kinds of opportunities. So they have that separated, but these opportunities often are also or could be viewed as tools. So I like to think of anything between you have your student here, you have your content or experience over here that you want to expose them to. Whatever is in between is either a media or the tool that you've created, the opportunity to do that connection. So, for example, I've been looking through I've looked through quite a few of them. Here's one. I think this is Hannah, the CHM up here. So she's got the connected classroom in the middle. She's got a few general concepts here: art as change, outreach, some very broad connections from events as tools. So that goes to my point of these events or opportunities can be seen as a tool in the class. She also has internet. I would argue the internet's much more of a type of a media. So what media, or what medium to be specific, allows your student to connect to a particular concept or to share their ideas to a particular audience. So the discussion forum, for example, is one medium that we're using to communicate with each other. And then over here we have community, so we have local community, global employment. Again, lots of opportunities here, types of local activities, and then there's connections between outdoor education. So in the environment, we have the lake environment and volleyball and kayaking. Up here we have sports, so there's connections here. So we start to see these broad connections everywhere amongst our work. In contrast, we have another one which is a bit uh, less chaotic, to use one of your classmates' terms. So here we have, for example, I noted that the curriculum has all these arrows coming out to opportunities or approaches, general concepts, and we have the first people's principles of learning coming into the curriculum. So I don't know if that was intentional or if this is more of a specific, how what principles of learning, like learning involves understanding the consequences of our actions, or learning involves an exploration of our place, or learning involves an exploration of our own identity. So how does that influence our approach to the curriculum? And is that a way to be more student centered in the curriculum? So it's a good question for the person that designed this map. So if I were to open some of these, a lot of what I'm asking you to do is really rethink your map. You don't necessarily have to redraw it and submit it, but you will be revisiting your map in Module 2. So Module 2, if you haven't read ahead already, you're going to look at some pedagogic approaches. Then you're going to connect some of the theories behind those approaches to your mind map. And so, although it may or may not be useful to redesign your map, I do want you to rethink it at least. And one of the things I've asked several of you to do is, what if you put the student right at the center of your map and then started out from there? How might that change what you've done with your map? How does that bring the student or allow you to think in a more student-centered manner? Another concept I've asked or pointed out to a few of you is the tools. Can you rethink what tools you've used or be more exact or specific in the types of tools that you're um, bringing into your map? Because what we're going to get to is looking at these different pedagogic approaches. So these approaches, if I use the term process, I often also ask students, although I'm not sure how many I've asked in this particular cohort, is to think of your map as a process. So if you put the student in the middle, and then we're going to tell your students to look at your map and say, okay, find your way from the center of this map, find your way towards the outside of the map. And so one of you had these core concepts in the middle, and you often see this in these maps, in curriculum maps, as big ideas in the center. And as you work your way out through the big ideas, you get more specific until you end up out on the outskirts of the map somewhere with a very specific experience or a specific task or something. So if you think about your own map as a process, that might then set you up to come into activity or module number 2. So I'm going to continue looking at these over the next few days. The deadline for this module is on Friday. So I'll then jump in and have a look at them. And if I didn't comment on it in the uh, forum, I'll comment on it in my feedback to you. If I did comment on your post in the forum, then I'll just comment on your answer. And please feel free to challenge everyone to really ask each other difficult questions, because that, from a first people's principle, asking those challenging questions involves or supports an exploration of our own identity and our own understanding of our thoughts, because we have to then defend ourselves or defend our thoughts, or at least think through them more carefully. It also aligns with another First People's principle, which is that of quellalep, which means the willingness to put ourselves in a state of cognitive dissonance. So we need to be willing to accept these questions, and we need to feel free to challenge each other and ask questions. Even if you feel like you understand what someone's telling you, think of them and ask questions that you think will challenge them. And that way, it's a very reciprocal process. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you very much.